What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind-the-scenes stuff. Arm yourselves typology stuff. This originally wasn't going to be a typology video because you see what I'll be discussing in lots of people, and we will cover the FE version toward the end. However, the reason this is a typology video is it is most pronounced and most destructive in FI types. Because FI types are intensely self-important. And a person can be as self-important as they want to be. I'm very important to myself. But FI types can't help but extend their self-importance onto others. Push it onto others. Demand to be taken as seriously by you as they take themselves. Now, let's start by remembering FI, like TI, is an identity function. And we've gone into the weeds about how FI identity works in the past, but what's important here is that FI is intensely concerned with identity. And as it fills a similar role as TI does, an FI type will be as certain about their identity as a TI type is with their work in progress one theory of everything. That one theory of everything is a TI type's identity. And although FJs can look FI-ish when they are identitizing, it's still deeply TI. They are still deriving their identities and their senses of self from their theories of everything. That's why with INFJs they are so like that. Immediate mob hostility to anything they dislike hearing. Because if the information they dislike beats their information, especially within their own minds, then now they are stuck dealing with an identity they dislike and probably won't be able to do much about without active conscious work for a while to correct or to amend their one theory of everything. But I discuss all this because an FI type is as certain of their individuality and their identity and their importance as an individual being on this plane as a TI type is about whatever they think this plane is. And as annoying and as conniving as TI FE types can be, why is a TI type less likely to be as singularly aggressive and as insufferable as an FI type is? FE types, TI types, are plenty insufferable individually. They're plenty insufferable and hostile in a mob, but why not singularly, usually? It's because of FE. Even though more sophisticated FE types have ways of maneuvering through the FE mood field, we're still sailing on the waves of others' emotions, the group's vibes. And for an FE type to be as forwardly hostile as an FI type gets when they're on their self-important shit, the FE type needs either the group's approval, the group's not knowing or never knowing, or for the crash-out tipping point to be passed. With FE types, you don't see singular hyperaggression outside the most disconnected and nuts, or the most connected and sophisticated, versus FI types. And we've already gone through the FI arc that happened years ago. I like FI types. I like FI as a function. I also understand FI's value as a function, and I'm not sure which of those latter two was more difficult to get my head around. But holy shit, FI self-importance and FI indignance is one of the most infuriating things to deal with in life. And I've dealt with it coming up on, I think, 5 times in the last month. But the most intense one today. So let's review what happened today. Details changed as usual to protect privacy. And then we will analyze. I work for a very old nonprofit. Lots of history. And although we do shit, primarily it feels like we exist as a prestige thing. Formerly, most of my job involved networking people between other nonprofits. That has since changed. It's basically 3 people trying to keep this ship from finally sinking, or sinking again, because this organization has died and revived a number of times. And I'm the load-bearing one. And I've been so out of my depth for months because it all happened so fast. I think my suspicion is what happened was the effort to finally sink it, to sink everything. Everybody knew the ship was sinking, and then at that moment, everybody decided to jump ship so they wouldn't be held responsible for it, because somebody's going to be held responsible when this shit goes under. Anyway, it took me months, but, and go figure, everything happens at once, every time. Today was the first day I finally felt like I have pretty much everything under control. And the things I don't, I have plans to deal with, and they're good plans. And we're still probably going to sink, but we'll sink with dignity. Instead of receiving primarily white reprimands and ostracism, I think I'll be receiving Jewish commendations. What a surprise all that has been, by the way. Anyway, I'm finally able to take a breath and relax. Mentally and emotionally. And within 30 minutes, a dude comes in with a shitty attitude. I smell a bit of alcohol on his breath. I don't hear exactly what he's saying at first, but I hear him say, "Well, I would ask him, but that would be useless." Okay. Alright, it's gonna be one of those. Well, I have a pump going, I'm feeling large, I'm looking large, doing leg day. Not just. And I don't recognize the dude at first, but he looks like shit. He starts talking about this organization's history. And do you know who this is? Well, he got part of what he was saying wrong, and I corrected him on that. But no, I don't know who this is. I don't know who you're talking about. See, that's what I'm talking about. You don't know the history of your own organization. You don't know the history of this area. And that's when he tells me who he is. And lo and behold, it clicks. This is the stolen painting guy from years ago. Long time, well, not... It's weird. I guess you would be long-time viewers by now, right? You might remember that. Stolen painting, weird circumstances, needed to get the painting back to the original painter because it had been stolen some time ago. But the dude didn't want to ship it himself. Really weird situation. And the painter didn't like this dude because I guess he had sent him a bunch of weird emails, schizo-type emails, sent pictures of him with illicit shit going on. Not pizza shit going on, but arrestable offenses going on. Oh, it's this guy. Well, he goes on his little rant about how we're not doing enough and we don't know anything. But there's a woman with him, so they leave. And I think, okay, day drinking little douche dude, no job, presumably. He wanted to say some shit to somebody, and now he said it, and Alright, now we got another enemy. Great. But he leaves. They're gone. But then he comes back alone. And that is never, in a situational awareness sense, that is never a good thing. So he starts telling me he feels disrespected because we don't know his, I don't know if it's his uncle or his great uncle or his adoptive father. I don't know what this dude is, but he's some renowned person. And I fucking hate this area, by the way. I hate these people. Because for months, I'm working my ass off to keep this shit afloat, not earning nearly what I should be earning, and actually behind on paychecks. Well, I was. I got caught up today. That was another reason I thought I was going to be able to put my feet up and take a breath. I'd been working for a while as a volunteer, essentially, because people can promise you pay, but if you don't have it in your hands, most of the time assume you're not going to get it. Anyway, I'm drowning and people are doing nothing but talking shit and being ugly and passive aggressive. And this is another thing. It's all about prestige, right? You don't think an outsider should be in control of your local prestige, your deep history. But not one of these lazy shits, they don't volunteer, they don't work in the industries they claim they care about. Everybody in my little corner, or my sort of corner, we're all transplants. And it wouldn't be like this if any of them would work, would do a job. They don't want to do that. Anyway, I'm already not pleased with this flavor of dipshit. Talking about we're not doing enough, you don't do anything. And if the door's shut, then the ability to do anything goes away. Anyway, little douche feels disrespected, and he starts doing it's a mixture of things. One, it's the ENFP thing of enlightening you. If you're into typology, if you've dealt with the ENFPs, I'm sure you've had the douchey ENFP trying to inform you of something thing. And then also the more general FI, you should feel bad because I'm not happy with you. And because I'm not happy with you, you should do what I say. So he had some recommendations on how we should honor his relative and honor him, his bloodline, even though this relative was certainly not a perfect person. And I love the fucking little cunts who exist in cliches. Other little Joe dipshit turns of phrase. There was a bud in there. There was a do the right thing in there. And then he started leaning on the you have a moral responsibility to honor local history, regional history, our family's history. And by the way, that's one of the reasons I tell you, as often as I can, disable the morality centers, quotes morality centers of your brain, the want to be a good person centers of your brain, because those are vulnerabilities. Little controlly, imposy, shitty, aggressive people will use to get you to do things they want you to do. And I don't have a way to confirm most of what this dude is saying, but there are ways to confirm parts of it, and I suggested that, and he didn't like that. I suggested he come to our board meetings with his suggestions, with what he wants done. Probably you're going to have to put together a plan for this, ways to verify what you're talking about, because there's going to be, for what you want, there's going to need to be a vote on this. And his response was, you think I should do more work? I did you a favor by telling you what you should do. His exact words were more, "You expect me to do more work? I brought you the idea." The "you expect me to do more work" came out of his mouth. And then I clarified, if this is something you want done, then this is what you're going to have to do, because there's going to need to be a vote. And propositions without a proposition typically don't get voted in favor of. And then he said that's not his right, which was an odd shift. I think the first one was a lot more accurate. And I was getting increasingly agitated and openly hostile after he shot that down again. Want your way without having to do anything. And something you learn in nonprofits and dealing with the public is that's the case with everybody. Everybody wants something for nothing, but also you get a lot of people who want to impose their will on you because they feel owed that. But we'll get into that. I tell him to leave, he doesn't leave. He's getting closer to me. And it's like it's not getting through his head that what he's doing and the way he's doing it, the way he started it, the way he's continuing to do it, is really douchey and hostile, uncomfortable. There's zero understanding that even if we were to do something like that, there's a process. He wants his way now, and I'm not doing it, and that's my not doing it is an attack on him, because that's the way these people think. And eventually he backs off, but he goes away with, well, I'll be back all year. And I got security camera footage of him. I'm going to start making inquiries. But I've had that interaction on a smaller scale repeatedly recently. And I've had that interaction on a smaller scale a lot over the years. Mostly dealing with FI types. FI types think their moral, emotional assessment of the world is the way the world is. But they don't have FE, they have no conception of other people's existences. FI types are basically solipsistic. And if anyone isn't doing exactly what they want immediately, then that person is personally offending them. That person is personally attacking them. That person is a villain that needs to be dealt with. And that's why I hate that sort of FI type. You're not all like that, but that propensity is there, and you probably needed to grow out of it, if you grew out of it. Self-important FI types believe as long as they think something or feel something and feel justified, the entire world should conform to what they want. And if it doesn't, or if a person doesn't, if a system doesn't, then that is a personal attack, and that gives them free rein to do aggressive antisocial shit. That's why I fucking hate FI types when they're like this. They try to impose something, and they get shitty about it. It's never, and that's another thing, they're never polite. You know, okay, how does a high level FI type get what they want? They probe for a bit, they figure out what they're dealing with in you, they get into your shoes, and then they tell you why giving them or doing what they want is in your best interests in ways that make complete sense to you. Oh my god, how did I never think of that? Refined FI is infinitely more capable than FE is, at least individual to individual. But what does a dumb shit FI type do when they want something, which is most of you? What do? You go in already offended that this person you haven't interacted with doesn't already know what you want and hasn't already given it to you, and then demand it while accusing them of personally slighting you. And it's funny because, again, I deal with those sorts of people regularly on a lower level. In fact, this is another professional example. I didn't meet this person in person, but something was getting done for this individual, but the person who was handling all of it resigned. So after a while, I get in contact with this person because with that committee disbanded, effectively we're not doing that anymore. But we made a commitment to this person, and I've tried to reach out to them before, but I'll try it one more time just to see. And I finally get in touch with them, and then they give me shit. When you're getting really important shit for free, and I'm individually honoring it because somebody else made a commitment, and I should be focusing on my people, but I'm honoring this commitment somebody else made you after I've tried to get in touch with you before, and now you're giving me shit because I didn't get you your free shit fast enough. You donkey. Which is why you should always make people work for things. That's one of the best tricks I have ever found in dealing with people. When people are making demands of you, give them a small hoop to jump through, and then a lot of the time they'll get indignant, but they will fuck off because they don't want to do anything. You should set the standard of making everybody you're giving shit to do something for it. But with these FI types, another aspect of this that infuriates me, that gets my moral hackles up, if I'm saying that correctly or using that phrase correctly, as long as an FI type feels justified to themselves, they will attack people, they will treat people like shit. They feel justified in imposing on people, ordering people, fucking with people, attacking people who don't validate and conform to their FI view of the way things should be, the way they think things should be, precisely and immediately, and preferably without their having to say anything about it. Because to them, again, they think the world is the way they see it. So if you aren't in line with that, even though they have never told you what they think their outline of the world is, you are personally attacking them and you don't even know it. And that's another thing. Professionally, because of how many people I deal with who are like this, because my field is weird, I will go along with somebody. I can think you're a dipshit, I can think you're a dickhead, but as long as you go through the proper channels and don't step over the line too much, and in all my time doing this, I've had only, well, I guess until this guy, one person who's really done that, to the point where I would need to say, no, absolutely not, even if you do go through the proper channels. But no, most people, most of the time, I think you're a dumb shit, I hate you, I hate most people. Go through the proper channels, we'll do it. Or I will do my best to see what you want done according to the way we do things. Because I'm paid to do that. I'm a professional. They have no comprehension of anyone or anything existing outside them. Again, I can hate you. I can think you're stupid. I can think you're evil even. But at bare minimum, I recognize that you are a person. And that's not a moral thing, that's like an object permanence thing. This is toddler cognition. I recognize that this is an object that exists in my space. FI types can't do that. Or at least these lower level ones can't. And that's one of the reasons I don't engage in the typology community, because a lot of the concepts in typology people hold to be sacred, they're wrong. Like INFPs, it's very popular to say INFPs are so individualistic, they will always respect another's individualism, even if they don't agree. No. Now, to be fair to INFPs, in terms of really, or on the really obnoxious meter, in my experience, it's going to be a small number of INFPs who are hyper obnoxious and a bunch of INFPs who are very mildly obnoxious, or maybe, just maybe even not obnoxious. The worst cases are ENFPs and INTJs. On the cuntometer, ENFPs have a pretty standard distribution. Some ENFPs are very cool, some ENFPs are very uncool. Most ENFPs are somewhere in the middle. But when they're in the middle, maybe just because back in the day I used to deal with a lot of ENFPs, that doesn't bother me as much. INTJs are wastelands of cuntiness. We're building a pattern of how INTJ cuntiness works more exactly now. INTJs are probably most defined, or they're most pointed in their self-importance. But their self-importance feels more like a guard patrolling in a stealth game. It's always there. You might not see it immediately. Sometimes you do. Oftentimes you do, actually, and thankfully. But other times it'll turn a corner and screaming start chasing you. It's there and you know it's there, but it's not in your line of sight and you're not in its line of sight. So for a while it can not be a problem, but it will be. Versus the shittier ENFPs, it's not always that pointed, but it is always there. These are the mustache guys, the ironic mullets and Hawaiian shirts guys. I think the ideal ENFP is a scientist. Put them in the lab mines and call it a frontier, and they'll do a lot of good work. But yeah, I have no idea why FI in this troglodyte state can't recognize, not even appreciate, just recognize other people exist and systems exist. And I can't understand why they feel justified, or how they feel justified in doing the shit they do, based on nothing other than the fact they effectively hit themselves in the head with a pipe. That's why we need to go Terran Federation mode and bring in the lashings. Condition their morality if they can't have it, or they can't understand it naturally. We're here because children don't get spanked. And personally, in part, I blame MTV. And then the FE side of self-importance, because I mentioned it at the beginning of the video, and people will bother me if I don't talk about it. Maybe we'll do an abbreviated version. FE self-importance is weird, particularly in the committing acts or imposing side of things, because it's done with a complete awareness that this person is another person, but it's also done without much personal or empathetic care. It's hard to explain. I think one of the reasons FI self-importance is so irritating is it's like everything is personal to them. Personally personal. Like, if you hold the door open for the wrong FI woman, for example, you as an FE type were trying to do something considerate based on cultural chivalric norms, and you appreciate when someone holds the door open for you. It's a nice little courtesy thing, this collective, hey, I'm watching out for you, on a super low level, but I really appreciate it. That's one of the few things in life I like, those little courtesies. They mean the world to me. But to Miss FI, she'll look at you like you are Big Jeffy E with utter contempt and frustration, and maybe she'll try to take the door out of your hand and push you through it like she's gonna hold the door open for you and she's gonna fucking show you, you sack of shit. You NPD little babies. Versus with FE types, when we are indignant, we can be angry at people, but it has nothing to do with them. And that's difficult to explain. Especially with TI DOMs, Demon FI. It's like you're a thing, or one little appendage on a huge system. And in this case, it's an appendage we don't like very much. There's individuality there, but not at all in the way FI types do individuality. And that's probably why FI types, when they're in self-importance mode, frustrate me so much. Because you are getting this shitty and aggressive and ugly for something that's not even on my radar. Something I don't even acknowledge as something that should be part of what people are. Anyway, when an FE type feels justified to impose on people, it's always a matter of ability, not necessarily justification. The justification is a very basic, you are distasteful to me. You are part of our theory of everything that we don't like very much. And typically they're not going to do antisocial shit, because by definition, if you're doing antisocial shit, if the social finds out, you're in trouble, and that's big bad, which is an aspect of control. If you are an FE type, you need to work on breaking as much as you can, because the social part of pro-social or antisocial is usually off. But what an FE type will try to do is position the thing or the person they dislike as the outside or the antisocial, the wrong according to the group's standards, so they can commit ostracism or so they can commit mob shit. And it's all about where the individual is in relation to the mob. Are you operating within the mob, so you have easy control or easy access to aggression, but not a lot of control over where you direct it, which is why FE types they love morality, or quotes morality, cattle Christian morality. So they have a ready supply of targets they can commit antisocial shit on and be rewarded for it instead of attacked for it. Or are you somewhat outside the mob, so you have to you can finagle it, but also keep some of your liberty, or you completely outside, at which point, that's the deepest shit, by the way. If you're an FE type, if you are a totally outsider FE type, you need to get at least into, if you were able to get all the way outside at all, you're never going to be all the way inside. But you need to get into the middle waters as fast as you can. But even in my analysis of this dude who fucked with me earlier, you can see me doing what I'm talking about. Okay, I am well, he is villainous. He is shitty. There's a lot of properly negative things about him, and that's why I'm not super worried about this. But that's when you should be most worried, of course. Anyway, I have compiled a bunch of shit that makes him look like a person who should be written off, or if he does something, you take my side. Everything I mentioned is true, but I'm still case building. So I can deal with the mob if and when it comes to that. Because for whatever reason, this is a very FI area. And for some reason, FI types... And that's another thing. That's one thing I do resent about FI types is they will side with these self-important FI types when the self-important FI type does something really shitty for basically nothing. Or for actually nothing. I don't know why you take their sides. I will never understand that, and that's something I hate. Truly. Because if I were to do something like that, and I gave you the same reasons, you would not have my back. Oh, and in this entire FI video, I didn't mention ENTJs once. ENTJs are a weird case because as an INTP, for better or for worse, I feel tuned to their level of FI. ENTJ FI does not bother me. Even when it should, even when it is at my expense, even when it gets ugly, I don't know, well, it's shadow shit, that's why. But it's weird that I don't feel, even when I hate an ENTJ, I don't feel that existential disgust and hatred and desire for extermination I do with other FI types. I don't know why that is. Well, it's the shadow thing, but there's probably more to it than that. I have a very hard time deep soul hating ENTJs, even when they are being very hateable. But I think that covers it, and we'll cut it here. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.